The most painful cave deaths ever by the Paint Explainer. I am going to tell you right now, there is definitely something mentally unstable about people that like to explore shafts. Like, I'll go into a cave if it's wide, like the opening has to be at least 4 times as wide as me and 2 times as tall. Otherwise, I am not going in that cave. The fact that people see a hole this big and they're like, dive right into it. Like, what are we doing? Dying via stuck inside of a cave has to be the absolute worst way to go out. I'm sure there is worse, like burning alive probably is more painful, but just like the fact that you're stuck and you can't move at all and there's nothing you can do about it. You're just stuck. Whatever. I'm gonna start the video. My rant's over.
Mossdale Cave Incident. It was June 24th, 1967, and 10 cavers were about to enter Mossdale Cavern to help clear some of the deeper passages and map them out. The 2 leaders of the group had already explored.
They're trying to map the cave out. These people, they explore places that haven't even been explored before. You don't know where you're going. Not only are you fitting between the tiniest spaces ever, but you don't even know where it leads to. Like, bro, what's wrong with you?
This cave before, which reassured everyone else. This particular
so the leaders have been before.
Its tight spaces and the very few areas where a person could fully stand.
Look how sad he is.
After a few hours inside, 4 of the cavers realized how difficult the cave actually was and decided.
Okay, so I understand it's like the reason they do it is for an adrenaline rush, right? Like they're adrenaline junkies, just like people jumping out of an airplane, you know, parachuting. Like there's a big risk. Like a lot of people would never jump out of a plane. Like I might do that. Like I kind of want to do it. Maybe not this early in my life, but like later in life when I know like if I do die, like, okay, I still lived a good life, but like you will never catch me in a cave. I just don't get it.
To return to the surface, they noticed a cloudy sky, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The remaining cavers continued their descent until they reached the Far Marathon Passage, which measured only 18 inches by 12 inches, with a small stream of water flowing along the bottom. Everything seemed to be going well, and the group on the surface soon noticed that it had started raining, so they took cover. Initially, the rain did not seem concerning, but the cavers inside began to notice rising water levels. When the water became alarmingly high, they decided to end the day's work and head back, even though they were still 3 hours from the end.
To be honest though, if you die in a cave from drowning, that's like a couple minutes, you're dead. And I heard drowning's very peaceful. It's way worse if you're just stuck and you cannot move for weeks while it takes your body to starve to death. Like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
Meanwhile, the surface group spotted something
drowning's not that bad.
A lake of water had formed around the cave.
I mean, it's still bad.
The cavers inside had no idea how much water was about to flood the cave. The surface group ran to get help, while the cavers frantically tried to reach higher chambers.
Like, what are you gonna get help for, bro?
To rise, pressing toward their faces.
You get someone to suck the water out? Oh my God, they actually tried.
Tirelessly, pumping water out of the cave and pumping oxygen inside, hoping that the cavers had found a safe chamber.
Dude, that's
Unfortunately,
so sad.
every one of the cavers drowned. Shaft sinkhole tragedy.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's sad, but it's much better to go out drowning than it is to be stuck somewhere for weeks and just slowly wither away and die. Like, it's so much better to drown.
1973,
it's still
a group of 9
tragic.
diving experts had planned a dive at Mount Gambier's shaft sinkhole.
My
this
God.
Sinkhole had a unique feature.
Oh my God. So they knew there was water in this cave. They knew. They're going in with oxygen tanks. Not only are they going into caves where they potentially don't know where they're going in the tightest spaces ever, but they're doing it underwater? Why? What's down there that we need to find?
Tiny opening leading to a cave with a lake 20 feet below. From this opening, a beam of light went down into the cave and onto the lake, which was extremely helpful for the divers' orientation. This beam was visible throughout most of the cave, unless divers ventured too deep into one of the 2 side branches. Everyone initially agreed that they would stay within a 200-foot maximum depth range, so they could remain in the main chamber.
But how do you even know? You don't know where you are.
This was their only plan. On the second day, however, 4 divers planned to go to the western section of the cave, aiming for a depth of 250 feet, which would have been a new record. This was deeper than initially intended and posed a significant risk because in 1973, divers were still using regular air cylinders rather than mixed gas tanks. For this reason, they had to be more cautious as they went downwards because nitrogen narcosis might have settled in. As they went down, the increasing pressure would have pushed the nitrogen into the bloodstream, producing a state of consciousness that is similar to when people are drunk. Keep in mind that these divers were not very experienced in cave.
Dude, that's another thing. I'd never want to scuba dive in my life. Do you know how many things can go wrong? If you come up out of the water too fast, the oxygen in your veins can expand and like pop. Are you kidding me? we're not meant to be going deep underwater. Our bodies aren't meant for that. We're not fish, bro. Like, why are we doing this?
Diving. They were more accustomed to standard open water scuba diving. This
not only are they scuba diving, but they're doing it in a cave, bro. They started going downwards
into the western section of the cave, and one experienced diver noticed that nitrogen narcosis was kicking in, so he immediately went back out.
Okay,
Several
that guy's
of them followed him and went back to the surface as well. But
survival
4 of them
instincts.
kept going, determined to set the record and get a quick look before resurfacing.
After a quick look at what?
The group
Blackness?
at the surface became concerned, realizing the 4 divers would soon exhaust their air supply. A few returned to the cave to find them, and they discovered a flashlight and a camera on the bottom, but no trace of the divers. There was a problem that we—
Bro, I bet there's some monster under there too. Like, it's a cave in the water, bro. There's probably a 25-foot serpent that ate them.
Haven't yet mentioned silt. The movements of the 4 divers stirred up the long settled silt into a sand cloud that would take a lot of time to settle back. This reduced visibility to less than an arm's length, removing any hope for orientation for the underwater divers.
It just keeps getting worse.
Without being able to see anything, oxygen running dangerously low.
The more I watch this video, the more stupid I feel like these people are.
Jacob's well tragedy.
Like, it sucks that they died.
It's November 23rd, 1983, and 2 students from Texas State University named Richard and Clark are about to enter Jacob's
These guys
well,
are smart enough to make it into college, but then they do this.
This hole seems relatively shallow, around 25 feet, and many people try to touch the bottom and then come up. However, this is just a deceiving appearance because it actually leads to another underwater cave with 3 chambers. The first 2 are relatively open and easy to get through, but the third one has a really small squeeze to get into it. If you manage to squeeze through, you'll enter a room that is 10 feet tall, and you'll see a really small hole at the farthest edge, too small to pass through. This small tunnel was just 2 feet in diameter.
Okay, but like, why would you want to go in there?
2 people died in it because after they managed to get through, a rock slide filled with gravel blocked them inside. Now, getting back to our 2 students, they were
wait, so 2 people have already died going in this thing, and these guys are like, we got this. Surely the unpredictable rock slide that happened to happen right when these guys went through it, they didn't prepare for that. We are ready. We got this. Like, dude, these guys are dumb,
fairly experienced in normal diving, but not in cave diving, and they were trying to get their instructor certification in open water diving. Their instructor, Don, was an incredibly skilled and experienced diver, and he was the one who removed the 2 bodies we just talked about. He used to constantly warn everybody to stay away from Jacob's well since it's deadly, and he even tried to cover up the small hole that leads to the 4th chamber with some cement. But other divers reopened it and left a message that said, "You can't keep us out." Don himself almost died in Jacob's well. When he tried to enter the 4th chamber, a gravel slide trapped him in the tunnel. He almost resigned himself to death. His tank was empty, and he had swallowed some water when his survival instinct kicked in, and he started rapidly moving until he cleared enough gravel to escape. When he did, he saw his diving colleague extending a regulator for him to breathe. As he started resurfacing, the air inside his body expanded until he reached almost 4 times his normal body size. By the time he broke the surface, he was screaming in pain. His belly was huge because his stomach had completely ruptured. These stories caught the attention of Richard and Clark, who wanted to take a look for themselves.
These guys are actually dumb. Their own instructor just went through the worst hell imaginable. They heard the story. They got warned by their instructor, don't go in there, please. And they're like, let's check it out. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, I hate to say it,
know much about cave
but they deserve it. They deserve whatever happens to them.
1983, they went into Jacob's well and reached the 3rd chamber where the small hole was located. Richard removed his tank to get through the hole and started going in while holding his tank. When Clark removed his own oxygen tank and tried to get in, he saw Richard's face and noticed Richard didn't have the tank with him anymore and was suffocating. Clark quickly reached for the regulator and gave it to him, letting him breathe again. They started passing the regulator back and forth as they made their way out, and somehow they managed to get through the tight squeeze of the 3rd chamber. They then began making their way toward the exit until a terrifying sound caught their attention, a clank from their oxygen tank. Not only did this mean they'd hit a wall with the tank, so they were going the wrong direction, but it also meant the tank was almost empty. They realized they'd run into the false chimney in the 1st chamber, a tunnel that looks like it leads to the surface, but is actually a dead end. Clark managed to swim back to the surface and gasped for air after covering an incredible 75 feet in a single breath. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for Richard, who remained behind and drowned. When Clark called the police for assistance, Don the instructor himself showed up and was stunned to see his students there.
Dude, he was probably so disappointed. He was probably so disappointed. He's like, you guys are dumb.
And a group of
you guys are literally
decided
dumbasses.
to venture into the Golem Cave, also called the Cave of Death, because of how dangerous it was. They reached the entrance at 3 a.m.
It's literally called the Cave of Death. You can't make this shit up, bro.
They encountered their first problem when actually trying to get in, as they had to crawl through a small pool of water. After that,
how many people had to go in this cave to die for it to be named the Cave of Death? And yet people still want to go inside of it. What do they have to prove, bro? Did they just not have parental love when they were younger or something? Like, what are they seeking in these caves?
There was a fork going left and right, and they chose left, which led them to another small pool of water. This seemingly innocent pool, however, actually led to another section of the cave through an underwater tunnel. The tunnel itself was really small, just 3 to 4 feet in diameter, and to get through
they went
you
in
had
it,
to be
didn't
completely submerged. This meant only one person at a time could go in, and they had to swim about 15
I really just
one by
can't
one.
feel bad for these people.
Plunging into the pool of water to reach the other side of the cave. And once they made it, they discovered a section with about 3 feet of airspace.
Okay, so it has 3 feet of airspace, but like, what regenerates the oxygen inside that airspace? Because it's not like there's plants in the cave. Oh, there might be plants on the... You know what? I have no idea what I'm saying. Let's just keep going.
Who stayed outside, there was no sound or light coming from inside the cave. And after a while, he started to get worried. He went into the cave himself, but heard no noises and saw no lights. Not sure what to do, he first called some friends who had experience with caving, and then called the police. He couldn't have imagined what was happening inside. The 4 friends who went in probably realized that the 3 feet of airspace they'd reached had bad air, which is a term cavers use for air that doesn't have the normal balance of gases, meaning there's more carbon dioxide air before. And less oxygen. This reduces your ability to think, move,
that's just
and
like
breathe
common
properly,
sense.
Making the return swim through that narrow tunnel super risky. They tried to get back out one at a time, but the first person who went underwater was unable to find the exit hole before running out of breath. That happened because the increased carbon dioxide messed with her ability to hold her breath and think clearly.
Because there's no oxygen in your body.
Seconds, the second person went in and found the first one, and so on, until all of them got stuck in the tunnel. The police arrived and tried to pump in oxygen and pump out water, while family and friends waited anxiously outside the cave. Unfortunately, it was all in vain. The bodies were later recovered, and the cave was eventually closed off with cement. If you want to discuss this video or suggest...
So not only was it called the Death Cave, but after it captured 4 more deaths, they finally decided to call it the Death Cave. I have to read these comments. Oh, wow. 2 people died from gravel falling, implying it is very unstable. Our very skilled instructor almost died because gravel fell on his stomach, literally ruptured. Let's go in. Like, bro, like, thanks for keeping my interest in exploring tight caves at 0%. Exactly, bro. Like, these guys have to have something missing inside of their brain. They can't have the same brain as the rest of us. There's no way. I have a condition that prevents me from cave diving. That condition is called having common sense. Exactly, bro. Exactly. I'm sorry if you like cave diving, but you're lacking something essential for your survival. Cave divers after a near-death experience in Satan's ass crack of despair. That was sick. We should definitely go deeper next time, bro. Like, seriously, why are they entering these caves that are properly titled something horrible, and they're just like, yeah, dude, let's do it? Maybe they just want to go down in history as someone that died to a cave. Like, that's what they want on their tombstone. Here lies David. He died to a cave.